never had great sex with an atheist.
Are you rolling?
Yeah. Are you done with your app?
I am rolling.
Great. Yeah. He's like swiping. Hey guys, welcome to Backsliders. We're here with our friend, Jessie Kahnweiler.
Is she a friend?
Shalom! Best friends.
I think she's Jewish.
Hey!
Who said that?
I feel like you guys think of me as like when you picture me, you picture like the dudes with like curls, like doing the hora, eating a latke. Like
When we first met you, yes. But now we're like, oh, she's like a normal girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just turn into that when I'm like need money.
Oh, what?
A real
Then I'm like
Jew.
Jewish.
Yeah, like where do you show up and acting like that? Like just to synagogues and stuff?
Synagogues when I'm trying to get money for my projects.
Do they support?
I mean, it's kind of nice to have like a tribe.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like, we want to like, make sure the Jewish culture lives on and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So you can like I've been able to get grants and stuff that have been like, that have helped me like do my thing. Mm-hmm. And it being Jewish, like it's been kind of like broad because I can go like, oh, this is confronting this truth and using comedy to do this. And it's like, oh, well, that's Jewish, So it kind of is like it works out nicely.
You don't
Any
have to,
other questions?
Bring in the Torah to like.
Yeah,
well,
test you.
That's when I first got my first grant. I was like not Jewish at all, not religious at all, didn't even like know what God was. And I was like, oh my God, I'm having to do like Bagels the musical. Like, what am I going to do?
So your family, what was it like growing up
What
with
am
them?
I
What did
supposed
they
to do here?
For
those listening, I'm like on this weird.
Oh, they can see you.
Okay, so what do you want me to go like this and then this?
Is that what you want to do?
Like how I know
Does that
it's
bother
weird.
you?
I want you
Turn
guys
your
to
head side
orient
to
to
side?
me.
We'll just do this. We'll do this. Is this better?
That's good.
Okay.
Is it too painful? You want to get below us so you can just.
I don't want to get sick with the.
I don't.
She's convinced Micah's
For
gonna
those listening
get her
at
sick.
home, he's drinking
sound sick?
nasal
Sinus blaster.
Sinus blaster.
I think it's just a little hay
preventative?
fever. Okay, it's just a little hay fever. Nothing modern. It's very.
That's what it's like when you hook up with a guy on your birthright trip. It's called a sinus blaster.
Oh, hey.
I'll be here all week. All right, come on. Are we rolling?
Yeah.
we're rolling. Okay.
All right, ask me questions.
Okay, so explain
Jeez Louise.
like what you believe, like in one sentence.
I believe that there is a power greater than myself, and I'm not it.
Great.
I like that.
Has this always been your belief, or has it kind of evolved over time?
Absolutely, through sheer will and necessity in order to keep my sanity, I have had to develop a spiritual life. It is not, it has been on my knees, desperate, depressed, lost, hurting myself. That is the place where I was. I wasn't suicidal, but I was so depressed that I was like, I guess this is just life. Like I didn't even realize I was so depressed and lost. For me, what brought me to my knees was having an eating disorder. I was bulimic for 10 years. I don't know if you saw my web series about it. It premiered at Sundance, first web series to ever premiere there.
Yeah, I made him watch it.
Yeah.
I was like, you have to watch this.
That's any guy that's ever watched my work. My girlfriend my wife made me watch it. It was good though. Like it's for dudes. There's tits in it.
Yeah. It's funny.
Thanks, Keylee.
Yeah, it's a great way to laff at a problem.
Micah, you'll learn this about
love
him.
laughing
He
at
does
problems.
not give compliments easily.
Yeah, no, I'm getting
those
that.
will come from you.
Yeah, I'm getting. Yeah, I was just very depressed and lost. I was 27 and I had gone to Israel. I had been in Jerusalem, the holiest places in the world. I had had all these like incredible experiences and I was completely lost. I was on my knees. I was, I prayed. My entire inner life was comprised over, like I used to wake up in the morning and the first thing I would do is like look at my stomach in the mirror. And if my stomach looked flat, I was a good girl. It was going to be a good day. How do I keep it? If I looked at my stomach and it didn't look good, I was a bad girl. And how was I going to make up for this and atone? I mean, it's interesting. There's a lot of like religious. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
raised religious, but
Yeah.
like that mentality of like punishment and repent. And so now I have a spiritual life that's absolutely completely the opposite, but it was from necessity.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like finding your worthiness based on like a very strict set of conditions, which does feel like similar to religion.
Did
Yeah.
you?
So, how so? Because you were raised Baptist.
No, I mean, I was like holiday only Catholic. My mom only took us to church on like Christmas and Easter and stuff. And then when I was in high school, a friend took me to a mega church and it was like Assemblies of God, like big worship band, like a lot of lights and like a bunch of kids. They had like a coffee stand that made like frappuccinos and shit. And it was like a whole different world. And they're like, yeah, you can talk to God like, hey, God, and he'll be like a dad who loves you. So then I was like all in there for a while.
Oh wow! So that wasn't even your family. You just
I weirded my
Wow.
family out because they were like, this church was like Pentecostal and like spoke in tongues and stuff. And
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Have you spoken in tongues?
yeah.
Wait.
I mean,
oh my
I
God!
like, we just did an episode about that. I made it up. But
So I could do tongues right now. I just go.
Yeah.
"Ah."
yeah.
Well, that's not it. But
I mean, you have to be a little more committed if you want them to buy it.
you have to try to make it sound like a language. You know what I mean? It's
Okay, wait. Do you
consonants and
it's like an
vowels.
audition for tongues.
Yeah.
Look, give me some consonants and
We're not
vowels.
buying it. Okay.
stop
Oh, that's
plosives.
fascinating. So basically, looking back at the time, you were just like, I need something to believe in and
Yeah.
to be part of something.
I needed to
and-
belong. I needed to have like a purpose and identity and like a stable family because I lived with my mom she's bipolar. And so she was like very up and down. I had like a terrible relationship with my dad and like this church gave me like a community that I had like never had.
Wow, that's
So, and I
fascinating.
like really wanted to belong there so much so that like I knew that I was making up sounds, but like my home group leader, like my youth group leader, really, she was speaking in tongues next to me and I knew she wanted me to join. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to start making sounds.
And that's so crazy that that's like been religion. It's just been people going like, okay,
Yeah.
Yes.
I
I'll do it too.
Here, will you love me if I do what you're doing?
Wow. So is there a part of you that like ever misses it?
I miss the community because
Yeah.
like it's easy to feel. I mean, it took us a while to like find our friends out here, and it was
Yeah.
very like alienating, and we don't have like any family nearby and stuff, and kind of fell like out of consistent communication with them. So I started feeling like an orphan, and so sometimes I miss like, yeah, the fact that twice a week I would go and be surrounded by people who like knew my name and really wanted me to be there and was like checking in on me and like validating me and like telling me I was great and I was a leader. But of course there were conditions though. Like I was good if I came consistently to church.
Yeah.
I was good if I was like on church teams, but if I started like doing theater outside of church, it was like, we
You
miss you.
must
You're
be sinning.
backsliding,
Yeah.
like you're falling back
Right.
because you're not doing exactly what we want you to do. There's still an element of control. But
But did it kind of feel good that like people gave a shit about you?
oh, hell yeah. Yeah. I think that's like what so many people want
Yeah.
and need, right?
Because I feel like
You kind of want that in your career sometimes. Somebody that's like, quit like wasting time and procrastinating, like whipping you a little bit.
well, it's called
Maybe
having
that's just me.
discipline, Micah. Yeah.
Okay, I need that.
Look,
Your wife is not your mommy. But I feel like that's the greater point about like religion now. It's like, okay, so we are a secular society and that's totally cool, but what's in the place of that? Because like if we're not going to have religion, I'm not saying that's the answer, but I feel like, and I know this is our own little bubble, but I feel like now it's like materialism is our religion, where it's like drinking the right kombucha and having the right like what's it called, like Pantone, you know?
oh yeah, the Peloton thing. people
Yeah,
talk
like
about.
what Pantone, you know, and just like having these things and like having the crafts fair, farmers market, you know, it's
And the
all like
followers.
things and the followers, and it's like we have to have stuff to believe in that, and now it's things, unfortunately, you know,
Yeah.
even like the crystal, like even the art, whatever our quote unquote spirituality is, it's all like, and I find myself doing it too. I'm like, I have to have my spray and my candle and my, you know, it's like, no, you just have to fucking breathe.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I feel like,
Yeah.
so how did you get out of it?
Well, it's like a complicated.
Should I like host this?
Yeah, yeah, you
yeah,
really
sure.
should. You're doing better at it. Well, there's also like a male leader in my youth group that like I didn't realize I was being like, what do they call groomed by, because I met him when I was like 15. So then he was just like an awesome positive influence in my life. But when I turned 17, he started like initiating sexual stuff with me. And I didn't realize like at the time what was happening, because he was like this guy that like poured into me as like a godly leader. So I was like unaware, and like I defended the relationship, and I was like, this is right. Like you don't understand, but it was all secret. And so like that looking back was like terrible, because he like wouldn't kiss me, but he would do like sexual stuff with me, because he had made this commitment to God that he wasn't going to kiss anyone again until his wife. And so it just made me feel like shit. And then we would like go to church and pretend like nothing was happening.
Wow. Did everybody know?
I think afterwards people knew, but like nobody helped me, you know, like nobody within the church. And I'm sure the version that he told was just that like he slipped up from this like sexy teenager. Cause that happens a lot in Christian communities, is that like it's all blamed on the woman. I mean, it happens everywhere, but it's like you're supposed to not tempt the men, right? Like they put it on you to not be like the Eve that's like going to tempt them with the apple. So then after that relationship ended, I was like trying to figure out, I still wanted to stay a Christian and like keep this relationship with God, but I was so confused. So I went to this like super strict Christian school, and that's where I was just like, fuck it, because they were trying to control me so much there. Like we couldn't bring in scenes that were pretty much other than like Disney and like picture perfect. And because I was away from that relationship and that had ended, I was like on my own for the first time, and in a place where they were like literally forcing us to go to chapel every day. I was like, why am I doing this? Yeah. Like, fuck this. Yeah. And I started bringing in like scenes from Spring Awakening, like S&M scenes. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I want to be a human, and I want to talk about things that are human and tell human stories and like find my voice. So it was kind of like a long journey for me to leave. And then I was like super angry atheist for a while.
That was my question. Are you believing in God this whole time? Like when you're in high school and...
Yeah. And like I even found, we were cleaning out the house the other day, and I found like my quote unquote God journal. And I was like, you know, writing in like the language that I was kind of taught in the church, like how we talk to God, like, oh, Heavenly Father, like, please help me like to be more like how you want me to be and to trust you. So I was like, I still had a belief in God at the time that I was in the church, but it was, I mean, at the Christian school, but it was there that I kind of like stepped away and was like, I need to figure out what I believe, like away from these people and away from this institution that's been having so much control over me. Wow. And then I like swung the opposite way, and I went to like a big party school, and I like, was an atheist, and I was like, I don't believe in shit, you know? And then since being out here and doing therapy and like yoga and like finally having people be like, you are your own greatest teacher, and like, what can you teach yourself? And now I'm comfortable being like, I do believe in something spiritual going on, but I don't think I can define it, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Totally. Very similar to like where you are. But yeah, it's not like it wasn't a linear thing.
That's so heavy, though. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I mean, it's like...
It was not until I was here and, like, in therapy that I was like, oh, shit. Like, that was not okay.
Yeah. And all this Me Too shit, too. It's like, I know every woman, you're like, oh, my God, that was, whoa, crazy. You know, it's like, it's a lot.
Yeah. You're, like, realizing, thank you.
But that's a great pilot. You know, I'd watch the shit out of that.
Thank you. Yeah. No, I've read this whole book. It's called Pure. It was this woman who was raised like evangelical Christian, and she kind of stepped away from it because they also teach you abstinence only, right? Mm-hmm. But meanwhile, like women are being abused, and like you are a teenager, you are going to explore your sexuality. But on top of like that normal experience, not the abuse, but the exploring your sexuality, there's all this shame placed on you because like your worth is defined by your virginity and your cleanliness. So she went back to her community after she left and interviewed all these people she was friends with. And that was so comforting to me to know that like, I'm not alone. Like so many of these other women had these experiences, and it does stick with you.
And you didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And that's really intense though.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like, it's not the same like degree of extremism at all, but I grew up like in Reform Judaism in Atlanta, and my takeaway from it was it's just all about what you can't do. And like I mean I went to like a pretty cool temple. Like ours was the temple that got like bombed in it was like famous
super
for
cool
getting
temple.
bombed.
Whoa.
In Driving Miss Daisy. I don't know. That was like a big deal growing up. I don't know that movie. I don't know if y'all remember that movie.
Yeah.
But Yeah, but it got bombed. Pretty cool. And yeah, but I just remember like it was all about like you're Jewish because you don't do this and you don't do this and you don't. And I'm like, well, what the fuck do we do? Like you're not teaching us all of the things that we can do, and just this.
Was there a reason why? Did you feel like they were explaining why we don't do this, or is it we're just because we're Jewish, or was it like their consequences?
It wasn't like a punishing God. It just wasn't an inquisitive religion. It just felt really like looking back on it, like, yeah, like basic bitch. Like you just don't eat this and you don't do this and you don't ask questions about it, you know? And there was this emphasis, which I always hate this part of like the chosen people, you know, like this idea. And I just feel like that really goes against actually everything I've learned about Judaism. I mean, I'm very much like take what you want, leave the rest about Judaism. Like there's things that I really like, core tenets that I really love, like, you know, Shema Yisrael, like that's the beginning of every prayer. And it means like, listen, you know? So it's like the prayer is like, shh, listen. And it's like just those little things. And like, you know, the body is good in Judaism. Like basic, boil it down. Body is good. You know, like there's these tenets that I'm like, this sounds pretty cool. But yeah, then you'll hear shit and a lot of like what the Messianic Orthodox Jews have done, you know, you're just like, oh, that's.
So is there stuff that like.
It's so sad what people have done to Jesus. It's such a bummer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's interesting that people take this book and they focus on like you're focusing on elements that are really good and really healthy, and you can do the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
Like people do, like Westboro Baptist Church. They're reading the same like Christian Bible and saying like God hates fags and shit. It's like, where are you getting this?
Yeah.
It just shows how unhealthy like the mind can be, and like the group collective mind can be. Like people can just go along
using
with this,
it for their own agenda. But it also frustrates me though when people are like, "Well, if there's a God, how do you explain the Holocaust?" And I'm just like, you know, like whatever. And it's just it's like I feel like people will be like so black and white about like how can you like Judaism when it's the A, B, and C and D? It's like, well, you're just picking out like shit is gray, man.
Yeah.
Like the existence of God would mean that nothing bad happened? Is that what people's argument
Like,
is?
don't you feel like that's always, I mean, that's the arguments I used to have when I was younger. Like, well, if the God was real, there wouldn't be a Holocaust. It's like, but God isn't Santa. Like, God's not actually controlling it. God's the thing that you use to cope with the reality of being a human being, at least for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I was in the Holocaust, maybe I would feel differently.
Divvying up good things and bad things to specific people.
No. Yeah. It's like, I mean, I believe in luck. Extreme luck. I believe I'm extremely one of the lucky ones, but you know, bad shit's still going to happen to me too. And the horrible shit that happens to people, it doesn't mean that they did anything wrong or, you know, I don't think people want to admit how much of life is about luck and chance. But God still factors into that because I can't cope with anything in my life without a power greater than myself.
Yeah.
I'm fucked. If it's just all about like me, I'm fucked.
Do you need an afterlife?
I went to this like past life regression thing. Have you guys
really
ever done anything like that?
No, I
we
want
haven't
to.
done
You
it.
guys should
We've
totally
been researching
Totally
it.
want to do
Totally,
this.
just like jump in and sign up for something.
You did it here in LA?
Yeah, it was like a woo whatever. And I'll never forget. It was a couple of years ago, and she was like, "Okay, we're like." It was before I started really getting into meditation, and she's like, "Okay, like go," like, and she like did this whole like talked us through stuff, and I had such a vivid. And I haven't done like that many drugs. Like I've experimented with drugs, but I'm not like a big hallucinogenics person. And I had this really vivid memory of like being an ape, and I'm like, you know, and then like I literally like I like lost a baby and I was surrounded by all these other apes and my womb was like, there was like bleeding. And then like, I was like, I escaped with my love. And then he took a bullet for me. Like it was this whole narrative.
Whoa.
And I was like, I think I was like an ape in a past life, you know? And,
the Congo.
Like. In the Congo or whatever, wherever the fuck. But then also I'm like, no, I also don't think anything happens, and I'm okay with it.
You just feel like in that moment, you're like, I got to come up with a story.
No, I don't know if it was like a dream. I mean, I believe.
Were you on drugs?
No, I was sober.
So just her power put you down this narrative.
I just had this whole thing. It was very detailed is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Where did all that
when she said go.
Well, she guided us. She did a whole they have a whole, it's a whole system.
There's like a whole group of people in the room?
Yeah, you guys should do it.
Okay.
But
Did everybody have like a crazy story, or were some people like,
No.
I think I was oatmeal? Like,
yeah, like some people was like, I fell asleep, like whatever. Yeah, you were probably oatmeal.
Just bland oatmeal. Steel cut. Super regular.
But then I also don't think anything really happens. I'm weirdly, I knock on wood because I don't want to die right now, but I've weirdly never been like, I'm like scared of like people I love dying. But if
Yeah.
I die, like I'm just like, okay,
yeah,
what are you gonna do?
no,
What's there to fear?
the pain's over.
Yeah, it's
Right.
like have you heard that Gary Shandling quote
No,
with that documentary that
I
on
did
HBO?
watch
yeah,
it.
we watched
It
that.
was so good.
He goes, when I die, at least I won't have to be funny anymore.
Pressure's
Good.
off.
Started bawling.
So
I was like,
good.
I've never related to anything more.
So relieved.
Rest. Sweet rest.
I won't have to do a bit at a party anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, death is always harder for
Yeah,
the
what do you
people
guys
leave
believe?
behind.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh my God, what are you gonna do when one of y'all dies?
Shut up. I hate thinking about that. Like that PS
Honestly,
I love you shit.
Honestly, you'll be fine.
Because I'm going? She says the same thing. It's
No.
gonna be
No,
the-
just women are very resilient. You know what I mean? I feel like men have a harder time. It's like maybe
I mean,
you'll
I've
remarry right
experienced
away.
a woman that is not resilient, so
Who?
eh,
Oh, don't say her name.
she's not gonna listen to
Wait,
this.
your ex?
No, my
His
dad's,
dad's wife.
Oh.
She'll pop back, but she's not there yet.
Well, because
Oh,
we
your
just walked
dad
through his
died.
dad passing away, and she's a very hard woman to deal with, just incredibly selfish during like a very obviously hard time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, sometimes I think about that. I'm scared about his death more than I am mine.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
But you know, you will be fine.
Why are you?
I'm just saying, like, it's gonna be horrible, but like I'm saying you're your own person. You have the dogs,
We'll breathe through it.
Yeah.
you have the career, like you'll be okay.
No,
But
we
how are you doing? Because my parents dying is truly my worst nightmare. Like it is
Yeah.
true. That is my tried and true worst nightmare. Like sometimes I see my parents get up. Like, you know, like this. And I'm like, oh my God, like when did you
this
get
is
old?
coming.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's my worst nightmare. How?
Are you an only child?
No, I have a sister, but I mean, our family's really, really close.
Yeah.
I have an older sister though. But my older sister is like the reason I'm okay. Cause I'm like, oh, but because at least I'll have her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh my God.
Now he's serving it back to you.
Oh my God. I never thought about that.
You'll be fine though. You'll be alone and fine.
No, I'll have my nieces. Those bitches will take care of me.
Maybe.
Oh my God. You can't
Just never
say
fly
shit like
together,
that.
you know what I mean?
Can't joke about the kids. Leave the kids alone.
All right, orphan boy. How is it with your dad? Is it awful? Were y'all close?
We got even closer in like the last 2 years.
Did
I
he
would
get,
say.
was he sick?
Yeah, so like 7 years ago, he was diagnosed with cancer for the first time, and they told him like 6 months. They were like, "You got 3 to 6 months. Like, get your shit together." And so he like kind of got his shit together. He changed like overnight. He was like more talkative and like sharing stories that he never shared before, and was just like way more present.
Was he super religious?
Oh yeah, my dad was a pastor.
And when we got engaged,
That explains so much.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, he was a pastor, but like kind of a fringe, non-denominational church kind of thing, speaking in tongues, prophesying, that kind of stuff.
And was it one of those things where like he was everyone's dad, but he wasn't yours?
Yeah.
Damn, she knew.
Kinda,
She,
yeah.
she knew that.
But he had also, from a previous marriage, had a daughter that died. And so I think that made him even more distant.
God. Oh.
It made him even more like
Afraid.
afraid to probably lose his children again. I think it just really scarred him. And so he never even, we knew about Susan, but it wasn't until he got cancer that he started talking about her.
Wow.
And then putting her pictures out finally again. And so he was just kind of like I'm not going to hide from this anymore. Like he just came 180
But he also-
from the religion that he taught me my whole life, he became like very new agey in the end.
Like how so?
He didn't believe in hell anymore.
You also
no
left
longer
out
believed
the
in hell.
part where he left your mom, because that was a huge shift.
Didn't leave my mom.
No, where he started changing like his
Yeah.
personality and his beliefs and kind of stepping outside of like.
Oh, so he left your mom after he got diagnosed with cancer?
No, he left my mom and then like a year later got diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
It was like right before we got married, my parents got separated, and they were separated for like 3 years just because like my mom wouldn't sign the papers.
Why did he want the divorce?
I don't blame the divorce for happening, if that makes sense. Like growing up, Alyssa and I, my sister, were always kind of like hoping, you know, like,
Right.
y'all
Like
are
this is not
together.
good. Yeah.
And I think that he knew that, and my parents separated when I was in 8th grade for a year. And my dad said he came back for us and just didn't want us to like not have a family unit until like after we graduated high school. So I think
Does it also look bad though in a church?
he lost his church even when they got separated. So he lost the church then.
Where did it go?
Somebody just took it over. Like there was like a board of trustees, and then somebody became the pastor, and he was no longer the pastor of that church. And then he would still like write stuff and like guest speak at different places, but he never was a pastor again.
Did that kind of like break him a little?
I think it really hurt him that they took the church from him, but like I don't know what he expected. You know what I mean? Like you can't just like leave your wife and keep your church.
Right.
Like it just, I don't know if that's happened before. I'm sure it's happened at some church out there.
So he got cancer and then he got a girlfriend?
Okay. So yeah.
Yeah.
So he got cancer. They told him 3 to 6 months, right?
Wow.
Then
So were you just devastated?
So that's the thing. So that was the biggest hit for me. I was like drinking a lot more. I was just like staying at home. I had a job at home. So I was just like isolating. I threw out my back 3 times in a year. I was just like, I guess not taking care of myself. I like quit comedy.
You got shingles.
I got shingles. I mean, like all these things
Like
happened.
old man disease.
Yeah. We were married at the time.
This is like our first years of marriage.
What were you thinking?
I was like, what the fuck is happening?
You were like, what have I done?
And I
She
didn't
was
know.
there though. She was there for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's
but I
marriage.
didn't know how, you know what I mean? You never know how to like walk through this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that because that was like the first time I was like considering, like you see your parents like getting up and him saying like, you know, I've got cancer, is like, oh God, he's dead. He's already dead. And then my sister like took him to the Bahamas to get this like experimental treatment. So it was prostate cancer, which is like highly survivable, but they caught it pretty late. He had Agent Orange from Vietnam, which kind of exasperated it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And
Jesus.
like at a PSA score of like out of 10, he had a 9. And so that's why they told him like, you have 3 to 6 months maybe. So he went and did this treatment. It like really slowed everything down. He was never like cancer free, but they were like, we think we can probably now buy you like 5 to 7 years.
Wow.
But my dad's also like super optimistic and super like believing in healing. You know what I mean? He never is going to lose that. He never lost that even when he became like new agey, if not even more so. He became like, I'm going to live to 100 is what he would say. Like, as long as I believe that and I think that, it's going to happen. And so for about 5 years, he was like doing really well. He gained a lot of weight. He went through some, what's it called? Hormone therapy. He never did radiation. He did radiation, hormone therapy, never did chemo. He was like, I'm not going to do chemo. It's just not going to happen because I've seen it. It always ends bad. Mm-hmm. And so he avoided that, but he was kind of like maintaining good markers along the way. And he met this girl that he knew from the cult back in the day. They were both
On
from the cult.
Facebook, they
like reconnected. And she had been married, had 2 children, divorced. He was married, had 2 children, divorced. And they were like, hey, I remember you. I remember you too. And then he like went out to Arizona to visit her and then just like stayed there. And they like fell in love. And they were like, we're going to get married. Like within probably 9 months, they got married. My dad was like thinking that we weren't going to come to the wedding. Like me and my sister were like, no, we're going to be there. Like, sure.
Do you remember this woman? Like, did you like her?
Yeah, I mean, I saw her a month ago at his funeral.
No,
Like-
she meant like from the cult.
Oh, no, not at all. Never met her. And she was like predated my existence. Yeah.
Good for them that they found love.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
like that's what's super like confusing about this scenario, because Alyssa and I were really happy for him to find love and to like have somebody that really like kind of doted on him and kind of gave him the attention that he always wanted. But she's like, she's kind of super jealous. She started like, she would like even treat Keylee like weirdly. Like when we would be around, it was like, she was very like territorial with my
Kind
dad.
of like classic stepmom.
She was like kind of like an 8th grader dating a boyfriend who's like doesn't want her boyfriend to like hang out with her friends.
It's like I know
Yeah.
him the best. I'm the
Yeah, he's my
you don't
husband.
know
yeah,
him
yeah.
like that well, ma'am. Like,
Yeah. Like I'm his fucking son.
yeah. So
That's
there was that,
hard.
and really treated
But
my
also,
sister
like,
shit.
I get where she's just mourning, and people just it like brings out craziness in people.
Oh no, this is why they were together.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I would say
interesting.
that the loss, it's like mixed. She's kind of come around to us more. Like she's
Well, the
but
hospital.
The hospital was weird. I don't know how much of this story I'm going to
Did
tell.
he know? Like, so during the last time, was it like? Did you know he was dying, or did he think he was like still going to be fine?
So this is what happened. So 2 years ago, he like rapidly lost weight. So 5 years he was doing pretty good.
So lucky.
Rapidly lost weight.
Jesse, shut up.
What?
It's like, what's his diet?
But like didn't. Yeah, it's called cancer.
Prostate.
Yeah, it's called metastasized cancer. You should check it out. It's all rage. It eats your body really quickly. So he lost like 60 pounds in like 3 months. And they didn't like blink an eye. They just acted like it wasn't happening.
They didn't tell us.
Until he was like bellied over, like he couldn't eat. He was in so much pain that he couldn't like get out of crunching
The
position.
doctors didn't intervene.
He didn't go. You see what I mean? Like he was also that guy.
Like dangerously
avoiding the
optimistic.
doctor and also like avoiding.
Steve Jobs with his carrots.
Is
Yeah.
that what happened?
He just
He
thought-
got cancer and he just ate a bunch of carrots.
And was like, this is gonna save me.
Yeah.
I mean, you do
Oh, he
crazy
had
things.
prostate
Like I
cancer
took
too?
my dad to Tijuana, Mexico.
To party?
Yeah, to party hard. No, like for alternative treatments. And so he went into the hospital. They gave him an MRI. They're like, yeah, your cancer mets to your hip. We got to do emergency surgery. So they did surgery. I was there within a couple days, and I looked at him. I was like, oh shit, like you're gone in like 2 weeks, because I didn't see him lose all this weight. So the last time I saw him, he was like 60 pounds more.
Wow, that must have been shocking.
And it was like, and like meanwhile, she's like, yeah, he's doing great. He's just like coming back. He's going to be up moving around in no time. And I'm like, ma'am, like you
Denial.
heavy denial. So then we go around to the like hell week with the doctors, and they pretty much just like, without saying it, are just like giving me that eye, like, take your dad home and let him die. Like we're not going to give him a feeding tube. He's not going to eat. If he can gain 30 pounds in the next 30 days, maybe we can give him like chemo light. And I'm like, I wouldn't give him chemo light anyways. Like,
Yeah.
So what they were saying was like, you know what I mean? You know?
Right, because they can't be like, he dead.
Yeah. And one doctor, this is how they were, him and his wife. So we went to one of his doctors, and the doctor was like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I don't usually like meeting somebody in this situation, because he was meeting them for the first time. And he was like, somebody in your situation and what I have at my disposal to help you, you're just not a candidate that I can imagine is going to live another 10 years. And they were like so offended, like, how dare he tell me that I'm not going to live 10 years? I'm like, I'm surprised he said 10 weeks. You know what I mean? Like it was bad. And so then they were just not giving up. And so I was like, well, I'll just start looking online for like desperate cancer solutions. And I found this hospital in Mexico, and I was like, hey, y'all want to do this? And I like pitched it to them. I pitched it to my sister. And within like a matter of days, my sister was like, I'm going to get a a private plane because he wouldn't have made like a car ride.
Right.
So we chartered a plane from Arizona to San Diego and then took like a bus to Tijuana. And then like the night before we checked into the hospital, I was like, oh my God, he's going to die in Mexico. And I'm going to have to figure out how to get his body across the border.
That's a whole thing.
He was looking bad. He was like puking, not eating. I was
so
like,
you
oh,
and
shit.
your sister?
No, it was just me and his wife and him in Tijuana. So we were in a hotel for one night and then we got in the hospital. And then within 72 hours, they had a meeting. Like nobody in the hospital in America gave a shit that he was not eating or tried to solve the problem. It took like 2 very simple pills to like help him eat. One was a psych med to deal with anxiety, and one was a pill to just coat his stomach because he had like so much inflammation in his stomach that he couldn't keep anything down. So within 2 days, they had him back eating. So we were down there for 10 days, I think. And then it's just like a cycle of like all these IVs and tons of supplements and like weird shit. Not weird shit, but like stuff that's not legal here, but is like legal in Europe. And they do it in Tijuana as well. So you think of Tijuana and you're like, oh my God, you're going to go get some like shitty implants or something. But there's some actual pretty good cancer facilities down there. So they got him back on his feet. And he lived another 2 years. And I attribute it totally to that. Like, I think you would have been gone.
That's crazy.
If you didn't go there.
That's amazing.
And then
Tijuana, it's like shitty Botox, but I've never heard a story like that.
Yeah. So he had to go down there like every 3 to 6 months for a while to get like re-up on some like they call it, what do they call it? I guess it's just like a vaccine, but it's not a vaccine. They take your blood and they separate the white blood cells and they kind of convince through some process your white blood cells to start attacking cancer again. Because over time, your body gets like weakened to not attack cancer. So they take your blood out, they get your white blood cells to attack cancer again. They put the blood back in you. So it kind of they're like, we're not curing cancer, but we're bending time. And they bent time. And it got to, he did it 3 times, and then I think he just like didn't want to spend money on it anymore. And they started getting cocky a little bit. Like they were like,
we're feeling good.
We're back on our feet.
Was he he was normal?
He was normal. He was back on his feet because when we went down there, he was in a wheelchair. He couldn't walk. So they get back. He gains another 20 pounds. He's still super light, but he gains like 20, 30 pounds over that next year. And then I think he just didn't want to, because it was like $8,000 every time they went down there. And I get it. You don't want to spend $8,000, but like, do you want to bend time some more?
Yeah. Do you want to
But
live
like,
here?
they were so convinced that like, if they just kept like his thinking
So then
positive,
how long did it take him before he didn't go?
well, he lived, I guess, like, right. He ended up going from a stroke, but it was cancer related, if that makes sense.
Just like stress.
Well, there was a mass in his brain, but without an autopsy, they couldn't have proven that it was a cancerous mass, but it was like a mass in his brain that had like ruptured. So it was probably, he also had like something on his arm that was like kind of larger and growing. And he was like feeling so much pain. Like I didn't realize this until he was in San Diego. Here's the weirdest part. So he hadn't like been in a pastoral role in years. And so some girl asked him to perform her wedding. So my dad was going to do a wedding in San Diego. And so the night he went to San Diego to do the rehearsal for the wedding is when he had the stroke. And then went to the hospital. We got down there in like 2 hours. And then his wife kept him on life support for 5 days, even though it was like totally obvious that, like, when I walked in the room, I knew he wasn't there anymore. But she just couldn't wrap her head around it yet. So that was like challenging. That was challenging. Thank you. We really got our stories out today.
Yeah, I hope you guys feel better. I'm gonna go call my therapist.
For us? Or just tell her like, my life's pretty good.
I'm actually doing good.
Yeah, alive parent.
My dad is alive.
Yeah, hug him.
didn't get touched weirdly by a pastor. But that'll be a great pilot. Both of you. I mean, yours needs a little levity, but
It's hard to answer concisely about.
well, no. I mean, and
dad.
it just happened. Like, you must still be in shock.
Yeah, well, this is the thing is the 7-year ago thing was the biggest shock.
Yeah.
And then 2 years ago was a
Right,
pretty.
you've been kind of prepping for
I've
it.
been like,
Yeah.
I've been like, I was the most prepared out of everybody. Like his wife, my sister weren't prepared.
Yeah.
My sister was not prepared at all.
It was probably smart, though, that you kind of mentally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I told him 2 years ago when I was there, it was a weird moment, but it was important. I just told him, I was like, hey, I just want you to know, like, I know you're not going to die right now, but I just want you to know, like, when you do, it's okay. Like, it's okay to die. And he just like
It's amazing.
stared at me and like couldn't speak. He was just like,
Wow.
just like
So hard.
but he didn't really want to hear it. Like, I think to him it was kind of like counterintuitive to like he almost was like, I don't want you to say that because I need you to say I'm not gonna die.
Right.
Yeah, he wanted to
It was
live.
like he couldn't take. You were being too real.
Yeah.
Right.
But
yeah.
you know what? You're saying it to yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know when it's your
Yeah.
time to go. In many years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I think that's a really beautiful. That's a really beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's totally not the same thing. But I lost a good friend of mine a couple months ago, and it was like 35, drop dead. Totally, and it's like totally a different experience. And I just like on Facebook, and I just remember like what it's like a total. I'm still like, it happened in like May, and I'm still like, wait, what? Like, it
Processing.
takes a while for
Yeah.
your brain to like.
Wrap it.
Yeah, like the closest thing I have is like when you go through a breakup and you're like, wait, what? Like,
Yeah.
this person, it's not.
Just a jarring loss.
Yeah, it's like it's like crazy. So it's kind of cool that I'm sure it's like totally life altering, but also like that you've had time to kind of, and like he is not in pain. I mean, it's such a
Right.
cliche thing, but it actually is true. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
well, they're not in pain.
Yeah, he's not suffering.
Totally. And
So
he
where do
said
you
he wanted
think-
to go fast. And if he wouldn't have gone from like a quick stroke, I think it would have been like a painful couple months that would have just, we'd be in it right now.
Right. Where do you think he is now?
I think he thinks he's still here. I don't know what I think.
Oh, that's funny. Like, you're like the ghost of your dad still haunting you, and it's like, bitch, you're dead. Oh, is that the Sixth Sense?
Kind
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Micah's dad's actually in our closet right now.
Yeah.
His
he is,
ashes are
yeah,
here.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a third of them.
What are you gonna do with them?
I haven't decided yet because
Okay, listen. When you put them out, this happens to me every time. Every
many ashes
grandparent, my great aunt Arlene, my grandpa Lewis, my grandma Ruth, we mixed their ashes together actually and put them in the forest in their backyard. It was beautiful, all over me.
Yes.
I mean, it's like Big
God.
Lebowski. It's all you
Oh, no.
cannot. You have to be careful of the wind because the ashes
Yeah.
will just get on
In your
you.
mouth. Did you taste
I think
it?
it's kind of funny. No,
funny. They're
I don't
just
know. I was
one
like,
last
get the fuck off me.
How many? Like, were you alone? And this is like a whole family
No,
experience.
it's just family.
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah.
Does your family do like a?
But my
traditional-
family
So do
made
y'all-
me do it. They were
do
like,
you-
Jesse, you put it in the ocean. I'm like, okay, there's some fucking wind.
It's like they knew.
So do you keep a little bit of everybody so you can mix everybody? Because you said you mixed them all.
No, just my grandparents
Okay.
that passed. Yeah.
My mom asked me for some of his ashes so that she could mix with his.
But didn't they divorce?
Yeah.
Drama, post life drama. Is she still in love with him?
Yeah, she never like really.
To her, they're still married in God's eyes.
Yeah.
What is your mom
She was like married once and that's it.
Does she date?
No.
Interesting. I wonder why it didn't work out with them.
You're doing a great job with this interview, by the way, Jesse. You're really nailing
This is
it.
literally like
This is
my
what you
dates.
do.
No, this is like when I go on a date and it's like the guy's like, I had a great time. What's your name? And I'm like, I know everything about you. It's my fault though, because I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah, you like task questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, we're writers. That's what we do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they didn't bring the best out of each other.
It's a simple answer.
Yeah. I think they both had a bunch of trauma that they didn't deal with individually.
Yeah.
And they couldn't come together in a way that worked. I mean, they did, and they brought 2 kids into this world, but.
Well, so that's good. But it's always interesting because my parents are still together, and like, so it's like very easy for me to have the narrative of like, oh, they came together and they met in this chance encounter, and then I was born and my sister, and then I have these nieces, and like, you know, my friend, like people that are divorced, it's like, do you feel like, God, I came to this world and like with 2 people that shouldn't have been together, like I'm a mistake? Do you ever think that?
I have thought that.
Dude, I wonder
bit,
that. Yeah, my parents divorced when I was like 4, and like it was a very ugly divorce.
Yeah.
And like my mom's totally heartbroken, and my dad is a really selfish person. It's weird to be like, but I'm glad that I'm here. But they were not compatible, and they really never should have been together.
Maybe they should have been together for, like they came together for you. Yeah, maybe it's the opposite. It's like maybe you're the reason.
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean.
Yeah. To focus on that.
I kind of forgot
aspect.
you.
Yeah, that's the meaning.
I'm here. Yeah,
Let's get back to this.
I don't have a dead parent, but yet, you know.
It's like our manager Paul Young gave me the best marriage advice.
What did he say? The divorced Paul Young?
The divorced Paul Young. He said that
Once
divorced, yeah. He said that like he was like, you shouldn't go into a marriage. He was like, I think I low-key thought that like finally this person was gonna fix me. Like I wasn't gonna feel alone. And like that person can't do that. And it's like, that's the best relationship advice. I just really spoke to me because I think every time I get a boyfriend, I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, oh, fuck yeah. Like all my pain and loneliness is gone.
Well, that's what romantic comedies teach
No,
us.
we feel super alone when we're together.
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
How does
It's
that
something that
manifest?
comes up a lot.
Because I have in my mind like that couples, you're just like, oh, let's just cuddle our loneliness away.
I think she would do that. I think she would prefer that.
I like cuddling. No, but it's like your shit is still there.
Yeah.
But it's just you're finally with a person that you're willing to like stick it out even when like your shit is rearing its ugly head and you're being horrible to one another because like your trauma is reliving itself. You're committed to like letting each other heal. Like my mom, we got married super young. So I was 23 and my mom was like terrified of me getting married because she also got married very young.
I was also terrified of you.
Why did y'all get married so young?
Well, it was basically I wanted to get married because we were going to move out here to LA and I felt like, I mean, we were best friends and I knew we should be together forever. But for me, I wanted that commitment to know that if I was like moving across the country with someone that like we were for real. And
that makes sense.
It was kind of like a traditional Christian girl
thing. And to me
thing.
in Texas, like if you're for real, like you get married.
Yeah.
But my mom was like,
we did start going back to church when we were thinking about getting married, actually, for a while.
Did you guys get married in a church?
We did not.
We had to find a pastor that was willing to marry us even though we were living in sin, which was tricky. But
so I asked my friend who was like a youth pastor, and he was like, yeah, I don't think I can do it.
Yeah.
Even a rabbi, they would have been like, we don't give a shit.
Yeah,
you can fuck on the bima.
Yeah, so you guys you don't get hung up about sex. It seems like the Jewish friends that I have, they're like, yeah, no, like everyone has sex.
Or do you have sin?
We don't have sin.
But there's no like shame.
Have, like best practices.
Well, the more religious people, like the Orthodox, you don't have sex until you don't have sex until your wedding night. And my favorite thing about Orthodox weddings is that you get married and then the bride and the groom, literally there's a room, they go up, they fuck, and then they come down and party.
This straight up does happen?
This happens.
They don't go up there and like pretend to have sex when they already have.
But why would they? Oh yeah, I guess you're right. I don't know. I really feel like most like really religious Orthodox Jews, they don't fuck around with that.
She comes out like all flush and like, oh my God, that was the worst experience of my life because this is the first time I've had sex.
Yeah, he didn't know how to fuck. Well, she didn't know how to do it. But I grew up very liberal, you know, like.
Did your parents like talk to you about sex?
I don't remember having like the talk. I mean, I had an older sister, but I remember like my mom took me to the gynecologist when I was in high school. And there was never any like, I never felt like bad or there was never that association, which was cool.
That is great. And they don't like, they're super, you just see, like, to me, I look at you and like you're working, like you're so comfortable. You know what I mean? Like you're not afraid to like talk about.
I'm so neurotic, and are you kidding?
you're not afraid of like your parents like looking at what you do and be like, oh, Jesse's
I don't
like,
think we notice neuroticism because we've been raised by such neurotic moms.
that's probably true too.
But my parents and my grandparents, when they were still alive, absolutely have a hard time.
With your work?
Yeah, it's been conversations, and especially when my work's like about them, or I have like parent characters, and I'm talking about sexual assault, my sexual assault, eating disorders. Oh yeah, it's definitely. I don't know if that has to do with Judaism, but I think sometimes like I'll be like, "Here I am, world," and it's like. I think it's hard, and I think my parents have gotten used to it, and we've also had like a lot of conversations about it. Yeah. But like when The Skinny was coming out, I was like, oh, there's like a mom character, and my mom was really nervous, and I'm like, listen, I don't know what it's like to like have somebody write about their interpretation, and it's you, but it's not you. So I had a lot of compassion, but at the same time, like I'm gonna tell my story. So I had my mom talk to Jill Soloway's mom.
Oh yeah, who'd already been through it.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so what is this like? So they it was kind of cool. They kind of have this relationship now, and like but
I think it's
but also my favorite story was like I made this film called Meet My Rapist, and it was about running into my rapist at the farmer's market, comedy.
Very funny.
And I'm so
That's Micah giving a compliment.
Yeah. But I was so nervous, like my grandma's going to see this, like on the Upper West Side, and, all her friends in the nursing home, what's she going to think? And it's like, it's not a documentary, but like I'm playing a girl named Jessie, I felt ashamed and I felt embarrassed, and I sent it to my grandma, and I was either talking to her on the phone or I went to go see her, and my grandma goes, oh my God, Jessie, I love what you've done with your rape. And I just,
so sweet.
I don't know how I got so lucky to have that as a grandma, but you know what I mean? It's like it's love, and it's all good, and she gets it, and it's like, it's not like we're sitting there talking about it, but it's like she just gets it. I mean, my grandpa was also.
She's not like, I'd rather you not discuss.
No, she's just like, the fact that I come from that, it's like, I can't really put into words, like, to me, that is evidence of God. Yeah. Like, I can't even put into words how grateful I feel to have a grandma like that.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of love is like what I think of when I think of like the word agape, which is supposed to be like the godly love, this like completely unconditional, familial love.
And by the way, what kind of love, what is it when you are having, now we're talking about grandmothers, now we'll talk about orgasms. What is it when you are having this all encompassing joy, your body, I really like masturbated when I got, Mom, don't listen to this part. Like, when I got into recovery from my eating disorder, it was like, oh, pleasure. Like that's also part of religion and sensuality and feeling your body and like getting back into our bodies. And that's, I think there is some kind of like lost opportunity with all this, spirituality and religion. It's like about being present in our bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause like in the Christian church, like the body so often feels like it's demonized or
bad.
something. Or supposed to like control and like distance yourself from. So really like we started experimenting with LSD, and that was one of the first things that really helped me. Oh, have we not said that on this podcast?
No. But
Spoiler.
okay, I mean,
that's so cool.
No, but like that actually helped me for the first time, like really start to feel like comfortable in my body, because I still had like such hang-ups about like my body.
So what did you experience? Like what was the breakthrough?
There wasn't like a moment, because we were kind of microdosing. I've never done a full dose, which they recommend microdosing.
Have you done
for
ecstasy or Molly?
We've done ayahuasca.
Oh shit.
Yeah, which so we did ayahuasca before microdosing, and that was just like my ayahuasca experience, I didn't really see anything. I felt like I was in the womb, and the message that I got was like, you are safe and you've never been alone because you've always been with you.
Yeah.
And like,
beautiful.
You are okay. And so like that kind of started my trajectory of being like, oh, my body is good. Like I'm not inherently flawed or bad, which goes against like the Christian story, which is like, we are sinful people. We needed a savior. Like, you have to believe in him for you to be good.
Right.
But it's like, we are good.
And that. It's like, I think the journey is like, that, but how do you know that? How do you come to know that in your heart?
Right.
And I feel like you have to have experience, whether that's ayahuasca or whatever, like you have to have like whatever your religious spiritual experience is, it has to be a proactive experience. And it's not the same as ayahuasca. It's not as cool, but I did this web series when I was like 27. I got this grant from the Jewish Federation, and that was where I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? Bagels the musical. But it was essentially, here's money. You can do anything, but it has to be about Judaism. So I was like, I'll do a web series about like my grandma leaves me a bunch of money, but in order to get the money, I have to be Jewish for a year. So I like, I had enough money. It would allow me to quit my my production job, and just like I did a podcast, interviewed every rabbi in LA. I went to Israel. I hung out with Holocaust survivors. I like infiltrated the Orthodox community in LA. I like had an extremely proactive experience with Judaism, which was so different than like going to Hebrew school and like just memorizing my Torah portion for my bar mitzvah, which was just I wasn't in the world being Jewish. Yeah. And this was like, this is about having proactive experiences and conversations, and that was like a game changer for me to be like, my religion and my spiritual life gets to be like a journey and a proactive experience. And I think everybody needs to have that, or else like, why are you going to give a fuck? Yeah. So whatever that looks like for you. Yeah. And I had a little bit of like, I remember my parents were like really nervous that I was going to become an Orthodox Jew, because I was like going to all these dinners and hanging out, and
they're like, don't take it too far.
Like they were like, it was like a reverse, like, we don't want you to become super religious. And I didn't want to be religious, but I will say like, I still envy this about that community. It's just like, the rules are set, man.
You know what to expect.
On this day, you make this dish. These are the prayers you say. This is what you do every single week. Like, there's a part of me that envies that structure, because freedom can be, really debilitating.
There's no option overload whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You have 300 kids, and this is what you do. And there's something nice about that. Like, okay.
There's stability, it seems like, because you know what to expect.
Yeah.
And it's about like family first and foremost. Like, that's it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Do you date, do you have any like preference on what the people you date believe? Like, do they have to be Jewish?
It's so funny, because I was thinking about this, like, because I'm on the apps a lot, and like, it'll say like atheist, like every guy on the east side's like atheist, does drugs sometimes. Yeah. Cause you like list all the things, but I say like, I don't care. Yeah. I just can't have somebody like step on my angry shine. So like, I dated this guy who was like a super atheist, whatever. And I remember we were like at this, it was like a pretty day. I'm like, let's go explore. And we wound up at the cemetery, and there was like this huge, beautiful tree. And like, I just like, sometimes the mood strikes you and you got to hug a tree, and I was hugging a tree, and he was like, we got in the car. He's like, I cannot believe that you just did that. Like,
he was mad?
Like, he just thought it was so like silly. And like, I was like, I like was feeling like God or spiritual or whatever, just happy. And like, I don't know if this is like having to do with an atheism, or he was just like a downer, an asshole. Yeah.
Just
but
afraid.
It's like, it's like that kind of person that kind of like shits on my beliefs and like shits on my shine. Like, I wouldn't do that to somebody else. And I think everybody has the right to not believe. But I've never had great sex with an atheist.
There you go.
I'm just saying.
If you don't believe in God, you don't shoot for the stars.
It's just, I don't know. It's just like, take it what you will. But like the guys that are like, my belief is I do not believe. And that's a very important part.
Even this doesn't matter.
Yeah. What's the point, They're like, why try?
Yeah, but it's really interesting, because I feel like telling people I believe in God as like in this town or whatever, it's like a crazy thing to say.
Yeah.
It's like a different, well, you guys know, do you guys have that experience?
Believing in God or what?
No, like, do you guys tell people like, or no, Like you're like, I was religious, but I'm not religious anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of where we are. But we're like afraid to say that, especially around like family. And here, what we've found is like we found ourselves surrounded by a lot of Christians, which is interesting, but it feels like we make them uncomfortable when we're talking about like how our beliefs have changed, like it's contagious or something. Like they're going to catch it from us being like, oh, well, we don't really believe in hell anymore. Or
Well, there is like in the Christian community, like this opinion that like if you're like hanging or you're like become the equal sum of the people you hang out with, you know? So like if somebody's
Iron
like a non-believer,
iron.
then like they're going to bring the group down.
Bring it
So
down.
you gotta like shun them a little bit.
Okay, so what is a good thing about Christianity?
What is a good thing?
I mean,
End of question. What's a good thing? Like just from the religious perspective, like what is something that's good about it? Aside from like, oh, community and whatever, like sell me on Christianity.
I mean, I think that Jesus is a great character
Jewish.
to model.
Jesus was
Also Jewish.
Yeah.
Yes. But do the Jews claim him really as like a role model within the Jewish
I do.
community?
I'm like, that's a little fucking Jewish boy.
He's great.
Oh no,
But
we
he
don't
also-
claim him though. We totally
Well,
don't
'cause
claim
he-
him.
but
That's
I
so
think he-
interesting.
I think he took
Yeah.
it
We
too
don't claim
far.
him. He's like nowhere in the Torah.
He took it too far.
But he was
didn't.
radical.
He didn't. His people did.
No, well, Jesus was a radical.
What I'm saying is like I think his belief
person.
in like his personal shine was like made even the rabbis uncomfortable, and they're like, we got to kill this motherfucker. He's like making people think that they are just as a part of God as.
So he's like how Kanye is. I'm not
Oh my-
saying
No, I
Kanye's
feel
Jesus,
you. I
but
feel
it's
you,
like,
though.
is he somebody where you're just like, Kanye, shut the fuck up.
Yes.
Like, stick to your music. It's like,
Right.
Jesus, stick to the fucking tables and cabinets.
Right. Yes. I think that to a degree, like Jesus in the Bible said, "Be still and know that I am God." I don't think that he was saying like, "Hey, I am God and you are not." I think he's saying like, "Model me, be still and know that I am God." Like you can say that in your own head.
Like,
And
so are you. But
Yeah.
he's just, his branding was wrong.
or the
people
interpretation.
interpreting it wrong. He's like, just do me. Just do this. Like this is what you should do. Like if you look at Jesus in the Bible and how he lived his life, I think that if we all lived that way, like we would be much happier people.
But his fault was he was trying to make it into like too much of a thing. Like he was trying to be a cult leader.
I don't know what he was saying that was like really in conflict with Judaism, other than maybe like a hierarchy, and he was like kiboshing the hierarchy, and they were like, "Well, we fucking like this hierarchy
And tradition
where we get revered and people come to us for answers." And he was like, "Oh, y'all don't need to go to anybody but yourself for answers." And they're like, "Kill that dude."
Wow. So it's like, is Christianity and everything that's happened really like the Jews' fault? Because if the Jews were more like, yeah, okay, like we're still going to have the temple as in the rabbinical system, but like you can have your side little thing going on. Because did the Jews kick Jesus out?
I don't know if they kicked him out. I mean, he studied with them. I think that they just didn't like what he was teaching.
The way that he was teaching. I mean, because he really, for
I think
the
he
time,
was like, I think he was abolishing religion, and they were a religion. So he was kind of against what they were. So fair enough. They were like, you're not taking our power.
I don't know enough about this.
Yeah.
I don't know if I know that enough about it either.
We did learn, though. I mean, I don't remember the documentary, but basically the gist was that like the story of Jesus is not a new story. There's been a lot of stories throughout history that have been very similar to this like Messiah story, like born in a poor family and like had a similar lesson to it. But it seems like this person was like, this story is obviously very popular, but it's been told before. But what I really like, one thing I really like about Christianity is, I think Jesus said this, the kingdom of heaven is within. Which, like, the end, like, I think you should stop there, because it goes back to like what I really believe to be true now, which is like, go within, like, be still, listen, like, realize you're your own greatest teacher, and like stop looking to outside forces, whether it's a religion or a book or like whatever it is that you're like asking somebody to teach you, and realize that like you are the teacher. But on the other hand, Christianity also teaches like, or can teach, this world is not your home, which is weird. And I hate that part of it, because I think like
I don't know if that's in the Bible or if that's just like a American Christian like saying.
Wait, what does that mean? Like, don't trust people?
Like, this world is not my, there's a song, this world is not my home, I'm just a passing through.
That's a song. But it's like, be in the world, but not of the world. Meaning like
it's not about this anyways. I'm trying to get to heaven.
It's about the last.
It's about
yeah.
heaven.
So you're like spending.
Oh, that's such a waste.
Spending all your time focusing on this afterlife rather than
to like really not live here now.
God, I never thought about how tragic that is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that
it's
people
very
spend
sad.
their whole lives prepping,
just biding time, but won't kill themselves. You know what I mean? They're like, they think it's about the next thing, but they're like, I'm just gonna live through this misery here.
Yeah,
because it's miserable.
Not even just misery though, like not being present and enjoying the like epicness of what it is to be here.
Yeah. Because the only thing we know for sure is that we're here right now and we're here this time. So it is such a waste that people will, are taught to spend their whole lives just earning these jewels in heaven.
But we have that too. I mean, we have the messianic era.
Okay.
So we have, so the Messiah is going to come.
Right.
It's definitely not Jesus. So when the Messiah comes, will y'all go to Israel or?
So there is still a wait for a Messiah.
Mm-hmm. So the Messiah is coming. So until then, so be
what
good
will
little
it look
Jew
like?
Girls and boys and say all your prayers and do all the Orthodox shit, and then the Messiah will come.
To do what? Because there's not a heaven, right?
No, we'll all be in Israel.
But what about the dead?
Heaven means all the goyim are gone. Like you'll be gone. It's all basically then the world's all going to be Jews, which to me sounds like hell.
You should do stand up. That's so bizarre.
Yeah.
But
Google it.
the
Messianic
Jews,
era. It's 4:55. Let's wrap this up.
The Jews
That's
who
10
have
minutes
passed,
fast, but we should wrap this up. We'll have to have you on for part 2.
Oh yeah, we're good. The Jews who have passed, though, they wouldn't get to see the Messiah. They'd just be like, "Glad you did."
No. They'll come back.
Oh, so there is like a rising from the dead.
No. If you're dead, what's dead is dead.
Okay.
What's dead is done. But I gotta Google this to be sure. But I know that the Messianic era is like a thing.
Yeah.
When the Messiah comes back, that's all Orthodox and all these crazy. I don't mean whatever the extremists.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're all working towards. The prayers and all their work that they're doing.
They're like pulling them in.
They're waiting for the Messiah to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really interesting that like an Orthodox extremist hasn't been like, I'm here. I mean, I'm sure they have, but yeah.
But they all get like
rejected.
Yeah, they're like, no, you're not. Like, what would be the sign? Like, is there like something written like it'll look like this?
Yeah, no, I don't know. But from what I do know, I don't think it's very specific.
It's just like, oh, you'll know.
Oh, you'll know.
Oh, you'll know.
You'll know.
Trumpets.
Trust me, chosen.
Thanks so much for.
I mean, it could be me. I'm just. How do we know? How do we know it's not?
All right, Kanye
me?
Weiler.
I'm just. That's so good.
Well, thank you for being on our podcast.
Sure. I mean, didn't really have a choice.
We always allow people
How can
to have
people
choices.
find you if they want to find you?
My Instagram at Jessie _Kahnweiler.
And we'll put the links.
What about
in
your
the thing.
TikTok?
Put all my shit. I'm not on TikTok. I'm on Hinge.
J-Day?
If you're single, no.
Okay, so you don't date.
I date them. I date them all. I date them all.
She doesn't discriminate.
Just have money. Yeah.
all love.
Just have money? Is that?
Be stable.
Must have your own room.
Nice. Just be nice. Just financially independent. Be nice. I want to be with somebody who does want to be like alone together. Like, you know what I mean? Submit what shows on Netflix you like. And
right.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.
No, I'm not saying that it wasn't real. I'm just saying that you made me feel bad. Don't try making me a better deal. I'm done with you and I'm fine with that, and that's that.